Well, welcome everybody to the third edition of Speak Easy Dental. I'm your host, Dr. Neil McCarr. I've been a practicing dentist for 35 years, and dentistry has always had me curious. I love speaking to influencers in dentistry, and one of them I have is today. His name is Mark Gaylard, and I'm excited to have this gentleman on here because he's got such a great story. And I think as dentists, we need to know these stories, I really do love the fact that he's not a dentist because he can actually give a different view of dentistry and look in that window and see, hey, what's going on? Because I know as dentists, we see our patients every day and we're like locked in a 12 by 12 room and trying to think of stuff. And then we have somebody viewing in, which is even better. So welcome to the Speakeasy Dental Podcast, Mark.
Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate you having me here.
Oh, you're welcome. One of the things I really want to get to know is I read your bio. I know you're educated in McMaster University, right? I also read that you were in law enforcement for 14 years, I believe, right?
Sir.
I guess what I'm really curious about is how did you go from law enforcement to the first time that you saw dentistry? Like it's such a transition.
Yeah, well, it's actually a huge transition. And believe it or not, what took me out of that whole world in the first place was a guy named Tony Robbins. And I experienced this character late at night years ago, like everybody else probably did, watching a Guthrie Raker commercial, and it really connected with me because my first love and passion was to be a teacher. And then I sort of followed the family lineage, and everyone in my family was in law enforcement and ended up there. But when I saw this Tony Robbins character, I really connected with his messaging and his passion for connecting with other human beings and helping them shift. So I drank, as they say, the proverbial Kool-Aid and started attending events, understanding how he works, going through a whole process and program. And over 25 years later, I'm still part of that. And that's where I had my aha moment where I need to do something different. And I wanted to experience maybe not teaching at a school level, a high school level, but being able to still connect with people, help people shift from where they are now to where they need to be and to break through those limiting beliefs. And everything that I learned with Tony Robbins, I brought into the dental space by default.
Wow. Well, I got a little Tony Robbins story for you, which I think you'll chuckle about. So in the late 90s, I was involved in a network marketing company with a friend of mine, and we became the top producer in Canada. And we got invited to a Tony Robbins retreat in South Carolina. And everybody's jumping up and down, yeah, Tony, da-da-da, all that excitement, I love it, da-da-da. So my buddy, he's supposed to sit next to me, and there was this big 7'2" guy, and he goes, you're not sitting in this chair. And this is before Anthony Robbins even got on stage. He goes, you're not sitting in this chair, it's my chair, right? So my buddy said, oh, what, I'm just going to sit behind this guy. There's something wrong here, right? And he started getting going on about his inspiration, his speech, took a 10-minute break. The guy looked at my buddy and he started crying. He goes, hey, man, you can take the chair. I love you, man. You can just take the chair. I'll take the other chair. So I'll never forget that. That was like way back in the late 90s, but it was hilarious.
Yeah.
So I also know that you're quite a motivator. You're an inspirational speaker, okay? And how long have you been bodybuilding, by the way?
Hey, well, that's a lifetime thing and a lifetime discipline, which has really helped shape the way I lead the rest of my life. Because, as you know, you don't just work out once and you get fit or you do a bodybuilding competition. It's repetition, repetition, repetition of training, meals. Something I've been doing since I was a teenager.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's impressive. I mean, if our viewers haven't seen pictures of you online, they should, because it's pretty impressive. Okay. Now, I really like the term that you have, and I want you to define it a little bit for me, is the art of business meets the science of dentistry. I find that super intriguing. So can you kind of just give me a little mesh of exactly what you mean there?
100%. And I'm not the real genius behind that because this goes back to our good friend, Tony Robbins. And one of the things he taught was the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. And one without the other was failure. So you could be successful, but not fulfilled. And we've all had those days where we've accomplished something and then go, is this all there is? Right. And so when I was looking at the dental space and the business of dentistry, Dentists are often not afraid to admit not always the best business people on the planet. I'm finding a much higher business acumen in dentistry today than perhaps in the past. But the art of business is the ability to connect and do the business of dentistry on a different level than the mindset and that 2 millimeter brain, which is the science of dentistry. And as I brought my consolidation together, I wanted to create that art of business that would support the science of dentistry to bridge that gap, to make it much easier for professionals in our world to continue to do what they do best.
You know, that's really interesting because I know in dental school, they always told you like not to sell treatment and stuff. And then when you got into the real world, you're like, you know, everything you do is selling.
Everything you do, yeah.
Right? You talk about a crown, you're selling, right? Or you're educating, basically.
100%.
Right. And you know, back, I don't know how dental schools are nowadays, but we never had any business courses, right? We never had anybody come in, show us how to do the books. So, I mean, the first office that I set up, dental supply guy came, we bought everything. We didn't know what we were buying.
Yeah.
Right. And then we realized, like, what did we buy this for? What did we buy that for? So I find dentistry is mostly like learning from your past experiences of what you've done, right? Could be like buying supplies, could be negotiating a lease, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen it over and over again too.
I was talking to an extremely successful dentist today, and we were just sort of going over his clinics. He's got multiple clinics out on the West Coast, and he's thinking of severing a few of them, perhaps selling them. And I said, just out of curiosity, how much did Clinic X make in the last year? Blank stare. Couldn't tell me. I said, how much do you produce a day?
Yeah.
And I said, a typical dental answer, as long as that schedule is full of pretty colors, they're happy, and they really don't even know where the money travels sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you know, through your experience, we live for the moment.
100%.
Right? Now, you got a really interesting concept going on here, and I really want to dive into it. Okay. And I want to know the birth of this too, like like what made you think of this, right? And that's your dental advisory board, as you refer to it as DAB. Okay. You got an extraordinary group of people there, by the way. I know Jennifer Turner, the hygienist. She's awesome and stuff. Dave Harris, he's from Nova Scotia himself.
He is, yes.
Yeah. So I've dealt with Dave before. Great guy, great individual.
I'm sorry to hear you had to deal with him. Great guy. He's the last guy you want to deal with. But if you need him, he's the best.
Well, Dave's got quite a little history there, Mark. I don't know if you know or not, but before he was into this, he was into appraising dental practices and evaluating practice. That's how I know him from, not from the
Much
other.
safer space.
So let's hear about that. Let's hear what your story on that.
So the whole dental advisory board, the whole concept of it came from being at that sort of parachute COO level where I'm not a guy who can live in four walls, but I would go into a practice or a small consolidation, 20, 30 clinics, and do change management, come in, shift the thinking, shift the business, get things back on track. And then I started to realize all the gaps and all the loose ends and all the bottlenecks where it came to, I would say to the dentist, do you have your lawyer place? Let's talk to your bookkeeper, your accountant, who's your consultant? And they all thought they had a team until they actually needed one. And over several years, I kept thinking, why doesn't this exist in our business? Why isn't there a consolidation that supports the business of dentistry? There's lots of consolidations that support the vendors and the equipment and what have you, but there are no silos or verticals of professionalism that are consolidated that can come together, put you, doctor, in the middle of that circle, and have this, this intelligence, this wheel of intelligence around you. And the most important part, and my number one goal with this, was they all communicate. Mm-hmm. Because as soon as you start to move through multiple verticals, they're not communicating, you instantly hit a bottleneck, and that's when it costs money, time, frustration, sleep. And that was really the origin of why we wanted to do it. And then it was how. Who are we going to bring together to do this type of thing? And as you know, Jennifer, I went and literally it was like picking a baseball team, picking an all-star team. I looked for people who already had brand identity because I didn't want to sell it back to the industry like a really cool idea, but you don't know who any of the players are. like you said, you sort of review them. You probably know 90% of the people on the advisory board, and they're all trusted no matter what vertical they're in. David Harrison, embezzlement investigation, our legal teams. We've got 4 or 5 different lawyers, accountants that are dental specific, consultants that focus on clinic optimization, the best in the country, hygiene training, government grant training, marketing, new builds, builders. It's all under one roof. And again, these are all separate companies that are coming together to create a hub, a resource for the dental industry to better serve it and allow the dentist to do what they're really good at, and that's fix teeth.
Absolutely. So that kind of leads me to a DSO question, a corporate question. Okay, because one of the biggest selling features of a DSO, such as Dental Corp or 123 Dentists, in order to, appease a dentist to acquire their practice, is exactly what you just said, right?
Mhm.
Hey, doctor, we just want you to go in your room and practice dentistry, and we're going to take care of everything else. We're going to take care of your employees. We're going to take care of your management, which sounds awesome, by the way. Okay, and I sold my practice in 2015, so that is kind of true. But I would also like, as an owner that I sold my practice, right? I still love the fact that you have this out there, okay? Because there's certain things that, when you sell your practice to a corporation, you still got that in your blood, like, the employees that you work with, a lot of the stuff that you just said, it's hard to let that go, right?
100%. Yeah.
So how do you find the DSOs will kind of fit into this DAB or Dental Advisory Board program?
It's very funny because I'm actually quite humbled by the experience we've had so far bringing the dental advisory board to the industry. We spent 2 years beta testing almost every conceivable dental scenario you could imagine, from a new build, bringing people from overseas to buy a clinic, people sunsetting and retiring, people that are acquiring more clinics or wanted to optimize what they already had. And within the DSO space, it's an organized business. It is the art of business at its best because it runs like a corporate wheel. They have a lot of what we offer, but what we're offering is to the solo practitioner or the mid-sized consolidator the same level of expertise as that you may have in a DSO. What's different about us is we do try and teach culture, which is probably easier when you have 4 or 5 clinics versus 300 or 400.
Absolutely, that's a good point. So how do you find that dentists take on change?
It's very difficult. I think change for most people is a very difficult hurdle and a paradigm shift. And we have to learn, and I teach what I coach, is to be able to think outside your comfort zone. Because I believe life begins here and not here where you're, in your intimate, safe space. And once we show them what's possible, and we don't push them, but we guide them towards shift and change, they're much more apt to believe it and then believe in themselves to take those necessary steps. I always say 1 degree at a time. Don't do a hard right turn into the wall, but 1 degree at a time, 365 days later, you've totally turned everything around.
Great point. As dentists, I always find that we're always behind one opportunity. That's how I define it. Okay, and I'm going to give you an example. So in the early 90s, it was teeth whitening, right? Dentists joked about it, said it's not going to work. Now it's a multi-million-dollar industry. Okay, early 2000s, the CERAC came in, that one appointment visit crown. Oh, the crowns are garbage, crowns are crap, it's not going to work, da da da. Became a huge success. Digital x-rays in the early 2000s, right? Oh my God, that's too expensive, da 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 da, blah blah blah. Now it's everywhere. Okay, marketing. Okay, so really in the early 2000s, marketing was voodoo in the dental world. Okay, today you got social media and everything and all that kind of stuff. And when websites came out, Mark, you probably know this, there was a lot of dentists that didn't do websites because they didn't believe in them, right?
Yeah.
But the ones that did excelled in growth, right? So what do you feel now are the upcoming opportunities that a dentist could take advantage of, or what do you see in the future that's something that the dentist is going to have to evolve to, basically?
Oh, well, I'll take a little bit of a step back. To one of your points, which is extremely valid, is the marketing was a bit of the voodoo for a while. There's a lot of marketers out there that will sell you the moon and deliver nothing. But there are some great dental specific marketing firms out there that will get you the results you need. And I implore any dentist that's considering opening a new clinic that don't save that marketing budget when you get the keys and you're on day one. I always tell them to use those marketing dollars from day one. So the community that you're building in, people that are around you get involved. They get to see the evolution of the clinic. Say, we are building this for you, Mr. and Mrs. Community. You can see your kids running around. They see the bare walls and they see the studs and they see things going in. And the day you open, you're already booking patients because the community is familiar with who you are. So I'm a big believer in strong, well thought out marketing strategies. And listen, I'm not a tech guy. I can barely work an iPhone. I wish I had my BlackBerry still. But the future in our business is technology. We see what's coming with AI. I know that that's going to have a massive effect on dentistry as we go forward. And I don't think you're going to get caught under the wave if you don't keep up with today's technology. And it's happening in that nanosecond that fast. And if anybody thinks that they can still live in that wood panel office world, they're going to be very sadly mistaken in a very short period of time.
Absolutely, 100%. I had a discussion with Tim Brown on this at ROI, and I just want to get your view on it. I asked Tim about new grads, right? I said, what is the feeling of new grads out there opening a new office, right? And I want to get your viewpoint on it too. And Tim said he was driving in an area of Mississauga where every block was a dental office, okay? So his feeling was that it's hard. It's hard for a new grad to open a new dental office, right? What is your thoughts on that?
Tim and I have varying thoughts on different topics. I respect the man immensely. He's extremely successful and extremely intelligent. I agree. There's more dental offices than there are Tim Hortons. There's a dentist on every single corner. And when a dentist comes to me with that same question, what do you think I do? Should I open here? Should I open here? Oh, there's too many dentists around. My number one piece of logic I try and instill in their brain, in our business, you are truly only in competition with yourself. The experience you create, the environment that you develop, the type of people that you hire, and you really live up to that mission and that belief and deliver that consistently on a daily basis. Because if you do and you give that to the community, I guarantee you'll be more successful than the guy next door who's just coming to drill and fill and get through his day. Having said that, yeah, it's a very challenging world to open up right now. I'll often say, and I don't want to offend anybody, but if somebody came to me and I always ask what your budget is. Have you gone to the bank? No bank, no business, right? And if they come to me and they say, well, I've got 800,000 or $1 million, usually my thought is under that 1.2 million threshold, we know your dollars don't go as far as they used to in dentistry and you get what you pay for. I had this conversation with a dentist back in the spring who is now building, associate for 25 years, first clinic. Came to me with his budget, came to me with his model of the world, the type of dentistry he wanted to do, the type of chairs he envisioned. And then he told me what his budget was. And I said, my friend, I can find you that practice. I can help you find that practice, but you may hate me in a year from now. Whereas if we go back and reverse engineer this and look at what the cost of the build be, let's look at the right area, let's look at the right anchor tenants, what's the geography around, how much new build is around there. Let's do it for half that price. And then, like I said earlier, infuse that extra money or a portion of that extra money into marketing to the masses. And so I ride that fine line of Tim is absolutely right because of the competition, but I also don't want to get somebody into something that they can afford that's going to disappoint them in the future.
You know, one thing I really love about what you just said is the uniqueness of the practice. What can I offer that another dentist can't, right?
Right.
So, you know, just last Saturday, you're gonna love this one. Just last Saturday, I'm a big fan of the Canadian Dental Care Plan. A lot of people know that from my posts and stuff, and I know everything about it, like I read it. So last Thursday on our Facebook, social media, I put a post on there. I go, CDCP, Canadian Dental Care Plan, Thursday denture days, okay? Why did I do that? Number one, I don't need a dental assistant that day, okay, because we have a shortage of dental assistants everywhere, okay?
Right.
Our lab across the street has a denturist, all right? So basically, I just got to take impressions, send them over, send the patient over, and they work with them, okay? And I also put in the ad, Mark, which you're going to really love. I go, don't call our practice, email us, okay? Because I don't want to burden the staff with a lot of phone calls. Anyways, one day turnaround, 21 patients,
Wow.
okay? What does that tell me? That tells me that people aren't educated on what can be offered, right? Because in Nova Scotia here, an upper denture is about $1,675. Government pays everything except $75.
Jeez. Okay.
Right.
I'm
And
going to come and open a denture clinic.
yeah, I put that in the post, right? And stuff. So that is an example of uniqueness to me, like as you just mentioned, because I'm a great believer in what you just said. Somebody can open a dental office, but gotta think out of the box. Like you said, look at the competition. What's the competition what the competition doesn't have that I can make better? I agree with that 100%. And that's why I think when I was talking to Tim, I said to Tim, I go, it's unfortunate that all these offices that are opening, and you said it like Tim Hortons, it's like a consistent franchise, right?
Yeah.
But what if we had a Tim Hortons that actually sold cheesecakes?
Yeah. Break the model, break the mold. You know, we've got what, over 22,000 dentists in Canada and 5,000 Tim Hortons. So it eclipses it multiple times over, right?
Okay, here's a question I want to really get a nice answer from you. And
Certainly.
DSOs, okay? I find, how do you feel about the culture in DSOs?
It's a tough question. I know that in everybody's heart, the culture is kind of that cliche talking point about how we want to build strong culture and we want to create a working environment where everybody feels safe and proud to be part of. But when you start talking about DSOs that are expanding into the hundreds, it's very difficult to manage that many emotions and get it right all across the board.
Yeah.
And I think it was Simon Sinek who said it, treat your people right first, and then they'll treat your patients properly. Because our mentality is treat the patient, treat the patient, treat the patient, so that they come back. But we're in an industry now where it's a revolving door of staff, and people are chasing 50 cents down the road to go to another practice. So if we looked at our cultures and thought, how do we serve our people and make them feel part of something, and make them feel empowered and really want to, like, I get to go to work today versus, oh, damn it. I'm there from 9 and I'm looking at my watch, waiting for that 5 to click. And if we create this environment where I get to go to work versus I've got to go to work, I think that will help improve culture. It's very difficult to do when you start to work on mass.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you know this gentleman. I consider this gentleman the Steve Jobs of dentistry. Okay. I look at YouTube on him and his success, and actually he has created culture, is Rick Workman of Heartland Dental.
Yep.
Okay. They have continue ed courses for the team, etc. And I think that's a great example for a lot of DSOs to look at that model and say, hey, this is how we create culture. I mean, they have about 1,200 dental practices, right? But every dentist you talk to that's associated with Heartland Dental, they love them. They actually love them, right? Which is fantastic. So let's talk about the shortage of human resources in dentistry. Everything from dental hygienists to dental assistants to dental associates. Before COVID, not an issue. You know, wages were fine. Everybody's getting paid what they want to get paid. And then as soon as COVID hits, right, you got this massive competition within our own group, like dentists. Like, you know, hey, a hygienist is getting paid X number of hours, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, how do I look at it at auction at Sotheby's. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Good way to look at it.
Right? What solutions are we going to find for this?
Hey, my friend, I think the curve is going to work itself out. And I say this because, sure, COVID, they called it the great resignation, especially in healthcare, at every level of healthcare, where those people that were thinking, you know what, I got 5 years to go and COVID hit, they went, get me out. And they were all leaving early. And I don't know what it was like on the East Coast, but for years, we had this big infusion in Ontario of private colleges, which saturated the market with probably at times some maybe subpar, and the wages came down. And then they eliminated those colleges. By the time that weeded out, and it was again supply and demand, the wages went back up. And now, post COVID, where it's really supply and demand, you know, in Ontario, we're seeing hygienists asking for $55, $60 an hour. And like you said, going down the street to the auction that will pay that. I believe because with COVID came a shortage in the licensed schools that are respected on the dental assisting side and on the hygiene side. So as we slowly start to put new grads of those schools back into the system, I think it may take 4 or 5 years, but you're going to start to see that level out. And to your point earlier, if doctors are willing to invest and teach these people and nurture them and mentor them, they can create amazing clinicians and support team from the new crop and the new grads that are coming out versus the typical, we don't have an assistant today, get somebody fill a spot. Biggest mistake in dentistry.
Yeah.
There's a hole in the schedule, fill a spot.
Yeah.
Right? What was the onboarding for that? You get better onboarding at McDonald's and Starbucks. Starbucks is brilliant. 4 seasons put you through a 6-month course. So you know what I'm eating in Toronto, what I'm eating in Boca Raton when I show up. But in dentistry, you show up Monday morning, you pass that interview, go to work.
Yeah.
You know, big mistake. So I think investing in time, investing in training, and really putting together an onboarding, that's what's going to create stability and longevity in your team.
Yeah.
And build your culture and strengthen your culture.
That's awesome. You know, that's really, really good. Back to dental advisory board. Okay. Dental associates. Do you have a system in there where dental associates can go to the dental advisory board and help them locate, or kind of like the Uber experience, match them up with a dental practice that they would be good at? Because, you know, we have all kinds of dental associates. We have ones that are good billers. We have ones that are just learning, right, and stuff. I find nowadays dental associates, they're just in the dark because they don't know what they're going to get when they get there. Sometimes, you know, they get there and say, oh, you know, the owner's taking all the great stuff. He's taking all the high-end dentistry. I'm just sitting there doing, like you just kind of mentioned it, you know, filling in the spot and doing the emergency share. And some, they want to get mentored by the owner, which I think is great, as you pointed, like, you know, such as implants, Invisalign, etc. Right? Is there a system in your guys' organization that could match them up properly?
100%. And when I started assembling, that's a word, like putting the pieces together for the dental advisory board, I literally wanted to make sure that we had a business hub that took the dentist from graduation to the grave, if you will.
Great.
And we do have a national recruiting company within the dental advisory board that recruits on both sides of the border. And then back to your point about how do I properly match them up? Well, enter Mark, who comes from the behavior world, and we start having these conversations to make sure that we're pairing right fit associate with right fit office, and not just doing that typical, you know, every resume you get is cut, paste, send on Indeed, and you get a dozen people at your front door. None of them even know what you stand for or what the office is all about. So we actually take the time with an associate to make sure that we understand where they're going, what they're looking for, and our doctors who are looking for associates, we want to have a real understanding what their model of the world is, so we're not wasting each other's time, and time is money, and putting right fit partnerships together is extremely important to us.
Yeah, I love that. And maybe that's something you got to put on LinkedIn about dental associates and recruitment, because there are a lot of dental associates that are confused on where they want to go. Right?
100%.
I would love to see that. It's a great idea. I'm just gonna end it off with a few more things, and you can elaborate on anything that you would like to do. So I'm gonna name, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna name something, and you tell me what the future looks like. Okay? Or what you envision.
Rapid fire, I like it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. AI.
It is the future.
Okay. Marketing.
It is the past, the present, and the future. Probably one of the most underthought necessities in a business. But having said that, research it, make sure when somebody tells you they can do something, they can back it up with references in the dental space who've experienced the type of success that they're selling to you.
What area of dentistry do you think will experience growth? Dental implants, Invisalign? Where's your head at there?
Well, it's interesting because of the aging population, there was a certain, the implant world may be slowing down a little bit, where aligners and the whole Invisalign world is now the buzz in our relationship. So I truly believe that that's going to be the next big talk track in dentistry.
Okay, wow.
And not that it already isn't, because the whole aligner world is blowing up and we're seeing new aligner companies pop up everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Employees, well, you kind of answered a little bit, but you see stabilization of wages in the future?
Yeah, I think that it will balance itself out. And I think that the importance on the stabilization side is the dentist's responsibility.
Yeah.
That goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Don't just fill holes. Don't just get somebody in because your assistant quit or your hygienist left. Really, really, really focus. Take that time and energy to get the right people, train them properly, because there's a lot less money spent on this end than there is on this end if you're doing it repetitively, time after time again.
Great. Listen, this has been a very informative podcast for me. Okay, and I love your answers. I love how you just come up just like that with the answers. I love that. So I'm going to leave it to you right now, and kind of if you want to talk about what your thoughts of dentistry is, and also like your dental board, right, that you have coming. By the way, I love that concept with the dental advisory board. I think that's needed. That's really well.
Thank you.
Okay? And stuff. So you go ahead.
No, I'm very fortunate to be spending this time with you, and I appreciate you having me do this podcast with you. This industry has been very good to me for the last 25 years. I've gained a lot of really strong, deep relationships, and we continue to grow our network. New friendships are made every day. And my biggest thing, and one of my biggest beliefs is contribution. It's part of one of our human needs is to give back. And yeah, does it get monetized? The money comes if you do things right. But when I saw the missing gap, that was the antithesis and the nucleus of why we created the Dental Advisory Board. I thought to a certain degree it is giving back, because we're making life a heck of a lot easier for a lot of dentists and a lot of healthcare professionals, because we can straddle many, many different chairs with the services that we offer. Like I said, there isn't a vertical missed in the Dental Advisory Board that a dentist won't need sometime during their career. If you're opening a clinic, you may touch 4 or 5 of them simultaneously: a builder, commercial real estate, myself. We have a team that does your whole startup, your IPAC, your turnkey, training and hiring and recruiting. And that was really important to me. And the thing that was most important to me was to get people together that the industry already trusted and the industry already knew. Because like I said to you earlier, I don't want to have to sell it. It sells itself. And the very fact that that open communication is there and that dialogue where the dentist is never left in the dark is what's going to make the Dental Advisory Board probably one of the most important cornerstones on the art of business side of our industry.
Well, congratulations on the Dental Advisory Board. I think you come up with a real winner there. I mean, I graduated in 1989 and been practicing dentistry for 35 years, and I can tell you, if I had you in the first 10 years, that'd be awesome. Stuff, right? I mean, I learned as I went, right? Trial and error, right? And so it's just based on experience now. So, Mark, it's been a pleasure, my friend, having you on the podcast.
I'm gonna ask you if I could do one last little plug.
Absolutely.
If you
Go
don't
ahead.
mind.
Yeah,
if you don't mind.
No.
So, like I shared with you earlier, the Dental Advisory Board has been around for 2 years now, putting these verticals together and beta testing it with various different dental scenarios. One of our banking finance partners, FIs, that got it early was CIBC. They saw the value, they saw how this could support their clients, and they're actually working with us to help us host our official debutante ball, if you will, our launch to the industry on November 8th at CIBC Square. It's a beautiful facility. They call it the 49th floor, overlooking Lake Ontario, Billy Bishop Airport. We have a few spots still available for dentists that may want to come and meet the board. They're going to meet all the top VPs of the healthcare division, the commercial division at CIBC. It'll be a great evening to connect. We're going to have a cocktail party, really cool vibe, a sit-down dinner, and then the opportunity to meet each one of the verticals, and that may be able to support you not now or maybe into the future. So I know probably somewhere on here an email will go up and reach out to me, and if we still have VIP seats available, I'd be happy to let some of your viewers enjoy that night, November 8th, at CIBC Square, Toronto.
Heck, I'll fly out for that.
Come on down. You're more than welcome, my friend.
Yeah, that
I'll
sounds
get you a
awesome.
good seat.
Yeah, you know, a lot of us dentists in the East Coast were kind of like, you know, left over there type thing. And a flight's only like 90 minutes to Toronto, so definitely it sounds, like I said, what you have there sounds super exciting. Like it's awesome, right? So again, thank you very, very much for your time, your knowledge, okay, and your motivation. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much,
I
Mark.
appreciate you. Thank you.